What is a thing that isn't taken seriously but it actually should? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. Sleep deprivation. 100% when I was 40, I switched careers to a field that hired people in a much younger demographic, video gaming. I worked the conventions quite a lot, and the 20-somethings would stay out all night and get very little sleep. I would have fun, but went to bed by midnight most nights. I ran circles around the young people. I still had fun, but while they were exhausted and a little hungover, I was killing it at my job. Sleep is important. I found that getting good sleep boosted my productivity and mood way more than pushing through exhaustion ever did. It's wild how much a few extra hours can change everything. Story 2. The current state of education. I realize that it's a big topic, but it feels like it's brushed off so quickly as like, welp, what can you do? Agreed 100%. I have 3 family members working in education, and it is abysmal. Teachers need to be able to teach and parents need to be involved. The problem is that it's a super complicated and nuanced situation that requires a screwload of thought and effort from practically everyone to even begin fixing. Due to this, it's near impossible to discuss it online since nobody can do any of those things. It's definitely a head-scratcher. I'd think by now the US education system would have improved its usage of technology and distributed the best curriculums for each specific environment for kids to learn and apply what they've learned at scale and spend more time on life skills. It seems they're teaching the same old stuff they did when I was in high school. Story 3. Driving. Stop texting. Pay attention. You're behind the wheel of a formidable death machine. Also riding motorcycle. You're not professional racers. You're not stuntmen. Stop doing wheelies. Stop trying to zoom in front of everyone. You being faster is no reason to go above the speed limit. Also, you're stopping at the same red light as everyone. And these stupid shenanigans put people's lives at risk. The extra agility, mobility is to be used when safe only. And stop motovlogging. Nobody cares that your identity is solely represented by riding a bike. 1 in 3 car accidents involve someone using their phone. In Australia, we now have cameras installed all over the place that use AI to work out if you have a phone in your hand, and if you do, you get a $544 fine and lose almost half your driver's license. Story 4. Practicing safe sex. This needs more upvotes. STIs are on the rise, and someone attacked me online because I said that people should not be using EC as their primary form of contraception in casual sexual encounters and that people need to use condoms. There's been an increase on congenital syphilis in recent years, which we once thought was eradicated due to penicillin. It doesn't get much worse than babies dying because people can't put a condom on. Story 5. The absolutely abysmal state of our software infrastructure. We've built up our civilization on unimaginably complex pieces of software with even more complex interactions between them. And the quality standard is just above "it works" for the vast majority of it. We are in for a very bad time if we don't get on this. CrowdStrike was an example, and not even a particularly far-reaching one. No one will pay for better than just good enough to work for a while. Customers want their software as cheap as possible, as fast as possible. Sales and execs jump on that and demand it from the devs. I'd like to build better, more robust things, but no one will give me the time or the money to do so. No one cares until they get bit, and frequently not even then. Story 6. How air quality affects our health. Yeah, this one is going to become more relevant as the years go on. My area had a warning for bad air quality yesterday. Though it only reached an AQI of about 60, I had to work outside all day in it, and then this morning I had a bunch of chest congestion. I wish I had worn an N95. Ever since my cousin has needed a lung transplant, I've been extra conscious of this. And our province is riddled with wildfire smoke ATM. Plus, we're in the mountains where higher altitudes make it harder to breathe already. She breathes much easier in BC near sea level, but she can't afford to move there and find new doctors. Story 7. Dental hygiene. For real though. If the mouth isn't healthy, the rest of the body gets worse. Case in point. Cancer patients. Not just patients with cancer in their mouths. All cancers have better outcomes when their teeth are brushed regularly, either by them or by a caregiver. Off the top of my head, I don't recall if the researcher had discovered a mechanism of action. I think it has something to do with how bacteria thrives in an unbrushed mouth, and that puts more pressure on the immune system. I'll update this comment if I can find a study to reference. Story 8. Alcohol use. There are a lot of people white-knuckling life, depressed and anxious, that haven't put two and two together because of their habitual alcohol intake. It's insidious. They think the alcohol is helping with the stress and depression, but it's causing it. It just so happens that the anxiety and depression last much longer than the effects of the alcohol, like weeks, so it's incredibly easy to not make that link. Edit man, people are too literal on the internet. I am not saying that anxiety and depression are solely caused by alcohol. That's a ridiculous assertion, especially because I am a person who has chronic anxiety and depression via genetics. Alcohol makes those problems infinitely worse. And there's a lot of people who think they need to drink to deal with their anxiety and depression when alcohol is the thing that is causing or exacerbating their anxiety and depression. Story 9. Following traffic rules. Disregarding them is one of the leading causes of death in the US, and yet I'm tailgated almost every day. I live off of a 2-lane highway out in the sticks, but a lot of wealthy families have vacation homes out here. When a holiday comes around, I'm always getting tailgated down that 2-lane road that the speed limit is 60. I know where the sheriff likes to hide, and there are wide shoulders just off the road. So I'll let them ride until just before the hiding place and pull off the road. They hit the gas, then hit the cop. It amuses me when I see them pulled over. I've got 6 so far this year. Story 10. The warning not to use Q-tips to clean out earwax, or general ear hearing health. People go to insanely loud concerts either with no protection or with musicians' earplugs that only reduce the volume by around 15 dB. At a 110 dB concert, those earplugs bring it down to 95 dB, which is still above what you should be exposed to for more than a couple hours per week. I promise you can still enjoy the concert with NRR 33 earplugs that bring it down to a level that's safe for the whole show. It might reduce the audio quality, but a concert isn't the place to go for that, and you'll still be able to hear all of those details at home in a couple years. Story 11. Constant pain in your body. It should be taken seriously to avoid more complications in the future. You never could be an underlying condition with those pains. This one hits hard for me. It took 10 years for me to realize that being in constant pain isn't normal. The doctor said I was perfectly fine. In 2018, my supervisor got pretty concerned that he'd feel fine, but I'd be completely wiped. I was in better shape and significantly younger than him, but he never understood why I was in pain. But everyone else wasn't. 2019 comes, and my leg starts collapsing more regularly. The doctors brush me off. I'm only in my 20s after all. 2022, and I'm now prescribed a regimen of painkillers, nerve blockers, and a bunch of other nonsense with heart attacks as a potential side effect, MRI tests. And more people feeling me up than I can remember. I finally get told that my knee is messed up internally. Wow, things I already knew, but I'm too young to operate on, despite having to quit working due to being unable to really do anything independently. 2024, and I've been told that I'm perfectly fine and need to do leg exercises, despite them being built like Chun-Li's. At this point, I've just given up. Maybe next year, I'll do a garage amputation. Welcome to the health system, where they neglect you so you don't have to do it yourself. Story 12. Noise pollution. After spending time in a quiet place, coming back to the motorcycles, barking dogs, and leaf blowers of the neighborhood is so jarring. It eats away at you. I think different cultures are more receptive or less receptive to talking about noise pollution. Where I live, it's majority Hispanic, and people normally get offended if you ask them to turn down music, even if it's 4 a.m. or 7 a.m., and you're framed as the unreasonable one. And the same thing when you inform them that their dog barking wakes you up early, or that it's too early to be using power tools. In the suburbs with Anglos, most people tend to be more understanding, to be quite honest. People in Hispanic neighborhoods are more friendly and warm, and willing to go out of their way to help you out more than other cultures. Whereas Anglos and other Americans tend to just ignore you or be cold and indifferent, but if you live here, the downside, if you ask them to be quieter, it's taken extremely badly for some reason. I like my culture in general, but this one aspect of Latino culture and the love of loud music and noise in general I think is pretty dysfunctional and harmful in my opinion. I think there's some elevated rates of cognitive decline in Latinos due to not only air pollution but noise as well. I often don't sleep well despite using earplugs, headphones, a white noise machine, and I've given up talking to the neighbors or calling the cops because there's always someone who's going to play music, if not in the houses adjacent to mine. It makes it difficult to do anything, to be honest. Story 13. ADHD. It's not just about paying attention in school. It affects most tasks we do as humans, including social interactions, relationships, friendships, and more. Untreated ADHD carries increased risks of obesity, suicide, substance use, unplanned pregnancies, poverty, depression, anxiety, personality disorders, increased likelihood of experiencing trauma, car accidents, school problems, job problems, broken relationships, and much, much more. And it's by far the most treatable mental health condition we have. My mom was actually concerned and took me to get tested when I was 12. It was inconclusive, it was ADHD specifically, but she didn't take me for further testing, deciding that she didn't want to put me on pills anyhow. She was really into holistic stuff at the time too. I didn't know that at the time about the testing. I'm a little mad at her now because I've struggled with my mental health since then. I'm 36. Before the end of the year, I want to talk to my family doctor to get tested again for that, ADD, autism, and especially depression, because a lot of those symptoms overlap with it. She has depression and has been on antidepressants for 39 years. Well, depression can be genetic. I just want an answer. It's very comforting to me to put a name to the unknown. I can't seem to hold down a job and I go through a lot of mental burnouts, especially these past 3 years. If I find out I could have been taking helpful medication to make my life more manageable, I'm definitely going to be upset. I know she was just doing what she thought was best at the time, but I was so unfocused in core subjects in school, for example. I didn't graduate grade 12. I had to retake English during the summer to get my diploma. With my struggles, I developed BPD over time and disordered eating. Story 14. Weight gain. Weight gain is taken way more seriously than drastic weight loss in my experience. Multiple studies show that being a little overweight is less harmful than being underweight. But we hyper-focus on weight loss as a cure-all and sign of virtue. I know people who lost a lot of weight very quickly due to life-threatening illnesses, malaria, cancer, giardia, and they were congratulated and asked, "What's your secret?" Even when my friend told people, "I got malaria in India and nearly died," people would double down and say, "Well, you look great." Our relationship to our weight and other people's weights is so messed up. Story 15. Basic food safety. A lot of people fall prey to the logical fallacy of, well, I've done insert super unsafe thing here a bunch and I've never gotten sick. What's the big deal? Failing to realize that it's not that a bad thing is super likely, so much that if it does happen, it can be catastrophic. I'm living proof. I went almost 3 decades of being cavalier about a lot of food safety things, and as the kids say, I screwed around and found out. One bad bout of food poisoning is all it took to cause digestive tract damage that I'll have to live with for the rest of my life. And it can be debilitating during even a moderate flare-up. Don't tempt fate, y'all. Cook your food to a safe temperature. Keep things cold that need to be cold. Wash your hands, and be careful about cross-contamination. You might be fine if you don't, or you might also end up regretting it the rest of your life. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below.